call the town board meeting for December 16th, 2024 to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Patrick, what do you got?
There are no additions or subtractions from staff, Mr. Chair.
Board have anything?
I have no additions or deletions.
No, I have nothing.
All right, hearing none.
I'll move to approve the agenda as noted.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, item 3 is payment of the bills. You sign off, Steve?
I signed off, move to approve payment of the bills.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, item number 4, this is the approval of our meeting minutes from December 2nd, 2024. Anybody have any changes, corrections?
I looked through them, I saw really nothing, so I'll move to approve the minutes of the December 2nd, 2024 meeting.
And I will second.
All right, motion made second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. All right, item 5 is a consent agenda item. We have a number of them. I believe we have a consensus. We want to pull at least item 5F,
Yes.
Republic Service Contract. Anything else?
No, not for me.
All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items 5A through E.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go right to it. Patrick, you want to give us an overview of this Republic Service Contract? That's our refuge hauler.
Sure. Mr. Chair, please, as board, discussion regarding the Utility Commission's ongoing discussions of renewing Republic's contract in lieu of going out for our 5-year cycle of RFP, which the Utility Commission has made as a recommendation for us going forward, no matter who the carrier is. But we are in the third year of our 5-year contract with Republic, with the last 2 years being options for the board to extend that contract. And during those discussions, we went heavy into what the overall impact was going to be with our residents in re-upping for the service with Republic for these last 2 years before we have the opportunity to go to RFP on the 5-year cycle. What you have on, I believe, in the Republic, I guess you can call it the Republic fluff piece. If you go to the very end, you can see the base rates for a 2-year extension, what was initially proposed. And the negotiating committee, which consisted of myself and Paul Groshen, who is our board chair, or our commission chair, met with Republic representatives and came up with a couple of options that we hope will be less impactful on our residents. So the initial one, if you'll look under the proposed 2-year extension, going across the board for 32-gallon, 64-gallon, and 96-gallon, compared to where we're going to be ending up at alternate option version 2, which is the one we are recommending, correct, Trent? Correct. Trent is one of our commission members, has chosen to join us this evening. And then you can see in year 2, the impact on our residents is a little less. The problem that we ran into, and Trent, correct me as I move along, the problem that we ran into was front-loading the first year alternate option 1 was actually going to hurt us on the back end of year 2. Correct, Trent? Correct. Thank you. Alternate option version 2 came about when Paul and myself met with Republic yet again. You can see that the impact compared to alternate option version 1 and the proposed, the version 2 is less impactful than the proposed. And then as you go down to the final box there at the bottom right-hand corner for the year 2 for trash, you can see that it is less impactful than it would have been in option version 1, alternate option version 1. It's very confusing. I know we had to go over it several times before we got to where we were, Republic was also gracious enough to knock, what was the total, 70 or 80 grand off the total? 60. 60 on the last year, year 2, to make it work better for us. So, just as an aside too, we also had extensive discussions at the Utility Commission regarding snowbirds, which has been, or snowbird service, holding service for our residents, which has been in front of the board here several times over the last year. And Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, the Utility Commission, because of the timing of the contract negotiations and the posting requirements for changing an ordinance, which is where this language is in, we have decided to opt into discussions in earnest about getting snowbird service held once again, so that it would be available to our residents beginning in the fall 2025 and into winter 2026. So we held off on making any changes to that this year in our ordinance in lieu of the final year of the contract. And what you have in front of you is a recommendation from the Utility Commission based upon several months of negotiating and a lot of input from our boards and some flexibility from Republic. Alternate option version 2 is what we have in front of you as a recommendation for the final 2 years of the contract.
Is that it?
That's it. Isn't that enough?
So the alternative options, either 1 or 2, these are for calendar years 25 and 26 of the 5-year contract.
Yes, the last 2 years, yes.
And so I'm clear, is anything being changed?
In terms of service,
Yes.
no.
So the 3 bulk pickup or 3-item pickup will still be,
All that
whatever
stuff
was
is-
negotiated in the 5-year term is still there.
It is
Our
unaffected.
cleanup day is still there.
Yep.
Okay. So it's just a price point.
You got it. Trent? Good?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Tom?
Yes, I've been at the Utility Commission meetings when this is discussed. It's been a pretty thorough discussion, and Pat's been working with Republic, Bev over there. So we think, although it's an increase, obviously, we think this is a pretty good deal for 2 years. And then during the 2-year period, we'll be talking about going out for
Correct, RFP.
RFP for.
So,
And just as a other side, sorry, Steve. One of the main talking points that the commission was really keen on, or on focusing, was they wanted to tie into this contract to our customer service reps' impending retirement. And we felt that we can't put a dollar value on her input, help, assistance, and dealing with any and all of our really complicated concerns from our residents. And we really wanted to keep her available to us for these last 2 years before chancing the open market.
So if we agree to this and not address the snowbird issue because it's mid-contract term, how do you intend to notify our citizens? Particularly because they've come before us, and we said when we're in the next negotiation, that's a negotiation item. So how are we going to address it?
So the primary individual who has been raising the most issues with this, when he gets back from his winter home, I will explain to him that the commission, because of timing with renewing the contract, we are going to be having, as Supervisor McCune used to refer to as, robust discussions regarding changing our ordinance as it directly relates to snowbirds. That's how it'll be.
So in the interim, I would recommend you put something in our news and views because,
Oh, you're talking about for this year.
well, I
bad.
think
Okay.
they're expecting, at least I believe some residents are expecting changes soon. And what we're hearing here now is it's not going to be soon. So we should at least update either on our web portal or News and Views or both.
Okay.
Just so it's there under, I think there's a tab where you can go to waste collections or something.
Yes.
Where we can just put something there. So that we know what it's ahead of us. We're just not going to deal with it today.
Yep. No problem.
Okay.
Well, I know a lot of their expenses is tip charges. And with this in the middle of the contract, are we guaranteed that we won't be affected by any of those for the next 2 years?
Not if we've got the contract specified.
Okay. Because I'm sure that's part of their increases. All that's getting expensive.
I think a lot of it had to do with accounting, equipment, fuel, labor. It was a big bump. Everything's getting expensive.
All right. Board, any other questions?
Just one quick question. If the county decides to move forward with composting as part of this, was there any discussion that would be, because I assume they would be the ones picking up the compost also within the next 2 years? Because I think it was on the county's initiative to have it sometime in 2025.
I think you're right. Trent, did we talk about that?
Trent, you want to come up to the podium? Just give your name and address for the record. Otherwise, they're not going to pick you up on the overhead.
So I'm just interested in the compost piece.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about that, the utility commission. We try to stay kind of current and relevant with the different things. I think Bev didn't really indicate that there'd be anything in the horizon for that.
Okay.
And so, but we certainly talked about it, considered it. I mean, if it comes up as something we have to do, then we'll have to bring it up again and see what we can do to build that in. But it's not in this proposal here, but we'll certainly look at it when it comes up.
Thanks, Trent. All right. Hearing no other questions or comments, I need a motion to approve this.
Accept the recommendation from the utility commission.
I would move based on Utility Commission recommendation to approve the contract extension with Republic Services for 2 years, as discussed and recommended.
Or which alternate?
Option 2.
Alternate version 2, caveat or friendly amendment to that, with the understanding that the commission will engage in ordinance change discussion regarding snowbirds for 2025, 26.
I will accept that amendment.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, board.
All right, moving on. Item 7, we have a couple of public hearings. The first is 4155 Summit Lane. I need a motion to waive the reading.
I'll move to waive the reading that was properly published.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And then I need an motion to open the public hearing.
I'll move to open the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right. Evan, you going to do this?
Certainly, Chair. So before you tonight, you have a variance for a fence. The applicant is looking to construct a 5-foot tall fence within their front yard. They had a fence previously that was 3.5 feet tall. You're allowed to go up to 4 feet tall. And so what they did over the last fall was they took down that 3.5-foot fence. They applied for the variance. In the interim, they did erect a 4-foot fence. So in the event that this variance were not to be approved, at minimum, they would have a code compliant 4-foot tall fence. Your building code ordinance 8 outlines fence requirements. It does note that fences between the front of a building and your front lot line cannot be higher than 4 feet tall. So that is hence why they need this request. Other areas I would note in your property can have a fence up to 6 feet tall. So around most of the property, it will be 6 feet tall, but then in the front yard, it then has to drop down to 4 feet under our current code. What they're looking to do is just drop that 1 foot to 5 feet. The applicant's lot is unique in that it has frontage on 2 roads. So it has Summit Lane as well as Forest Court. This is what's typically called as a through lot. It goes through 2 different roads. That front yard setback again is 35 feet. So if you think about the optics of a fence that is 4 feet tall and then 6 feet tall, that would be where those would be located at. There's not too many of these examples of this type of lot in the township. There's maybe only a handful throughout the township, and most of those were platted 60 or 70 years ago at most, or at minimum. I would note, in addition to The uniqueness of the lot layout, your ordinance does cover corner lot situations where you are again allowed a 6-foot fence in what is typically referred to as your front yard. So where the township views both lot lines that abut a road as a front yard, you are allowed one of those sides to have a 6-foot fence. Again, in this situation, they do have 2 frontages, but since they're not a corner lot, these exceptions would not be able to apply to them. The applicant did provide a narrative as well as a site plan before you in your packet tonight. The computer is not showing it on the TV before you, but you can tell where portions of the fence would be in the front yard, and then there would be vegetation around it. The area that they're requesting to have that 5-foot tall fence is essentially their backyard. Their front yard is off of Forest Court, so that's where the driveway and the garage access are located at. The variance criteria, the Planning Commission reviewed them at their last meeting. They found that the findings were met for approving the variance. They did make a recommendation to approve with conditions. Those are in your memo and a draft resolution before you tonight. So the options you have are to approve with or without conditions. You can also deny with findings for denial, or if you wish to review it further, you can always table the request.
Questions, comments?
I drove by it today and took a look at it. So it's 4 foot on the Summit Lane side,
Correct.
which seemed to be pretty tall. Are they trying to get more privacy? Because it's kind of on a hill.
Yeah, they
It's
want
not
more
too far from the
privacy.
street. Got a huge yard. And it's fenced in the back there. I guess that would be my main concern would be along the Summit Lane right-of-way there.
Steve, what do you got? You at planning
I
commission?
was at the planning commission meeting, and they
Cheating.
not done yet?
No, my computer just died, so. So 15'6" from the front lot line on Summit.
Yeah,
They don't give that dimension.
I believe they're gonna make it an opaque fence versus the picket fence too. Is that the way?
It's a
Yeah.
really nice cedar fence.
And I think the discussion really had to do with it was kind of a unique piece of property as it was sitting there, and they felt that it was appropriate to allow her to do this. Bunch of issues, because it is not a regular corner lot, it's a pass-through lot. So just keep it unique, and then turning back towards the garage, it'd just be the same fence line.
Well, plus too, when you drive down there, Summit Lane's a very narrow lane, a very narrow road.
It's a right-of-way kind of mess through there.
Narrow is an understatement, I would say.
Any snow storage issues? Look like 5-10 feet of boulevard there for snow storage past the fence. Or on the street side of the fence, I should say.
So,
Well, I know we've allowed a larger fence in the front yard right on Outer Lake Road and H2. That was a while ago, but I think the concern there was we got a huge traffic of deer in that area, and they're trying to deter the deer from jumping in their yard.
6
Well,
foot won't work.
Well, but we still, for some reason, if I remember, I think we allowed a 6-footer on that one corner.
Corner. And then we changed the ordinance after that to allow those in some corner situations.
Yep. So it's a little bit different animal still, but like I said, I drove by too. It doesn't seem out of character for the neighborhood, but I still struggle with after the fact variances. I mean, this
isn't after the fact.
but I mean, when they're Mike had to go by here and literally tell him to hold off on the project because there was no permit originally. I talked to him today about this, so otherwise they would have just went ahead and did whatever was their mind to do. But all right, Steve, you got any other questions or
no,
comments?
I do not.
Tom?
No, I don't have any other questions.
All right, I need a motion to open this up for public comment.
I'll move to open the hearing up for public comment.
Have a second?
Second?
Motion made second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Is the applicant here? for the fence?
She was on vacation, the property owner.
Are there any neighbors here of the fence issue? Well, no one wants to speak to this? Fences are a hot topic, come on. All right, well, hearing none, then I need a motion to close the public portion.
I'll move to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. What's the pleasure of the board, unless there's any other questions of staff?
Well, in this situation, I think it makes sense to approve the variance, so I'll move to adopt a resolution approving a request for a variance to construct a fence at the height of 5 feet tall within the front yard.
And I'll second that.
All right, motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, moving on. Another public hearing. This is 4025 Birch Knoll Drive. Again, I need a motion to waive the reading.
I'll move to waive the reading that was properly published.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And then I need a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll move to open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Evan, you going to take this one too?
Certainly, Chair. So this is another variance for you tonight. This one is after the fact. So a little bit of backstory. The applicant hired a contractor to get a driveway extension, which you will be seeing here on the site plan before you tonight. The contractor applied for a permit. Staff reviewed it, noted that it was within the required side yard setback of 10 feet. We also noted that they did not, at the time when the contractor applied, did not give us any impervious surface coverage numbers, so we were unable to verify that at that time. The contractor installed the driveway anyway. Staff was then made aware that the installation took place. Mike sent a letter out to the property owner, telling him that there was two options. One, you could remove, obviously, the addition, or you could request a variance and see if the township would approve it through that avenue. And so the applicant, the owner here tonight, they did get to the survey, which you do see here before you tonight, and they are requesting that variance to allow for that driveway to remain. So technically, they are requesting two variances, one for that setback. With the nearest point, it is right on the property line, so it would be 0 feet. It is also over the impervious surface coverage of the lot. And based on our calculations, it was already over the impervious surface coverage before the installation occurred. So that driveway extension kind of brought it even further out of compliance. So there's technically two variances before you tonight. The applicant has provided a narrative addressing some of their thoughts as to the backstory behind it, and then kind of their rationale on how they could appease some of the concerns the board may have. They did note, one, that they would propose a encroachment agreement between them and their neighbors. Their neighbors do happen to be their parents, to help address any future issues with maintenance on that driveway being at a 0 foot setback. They also propose removing parts of the existing patio, which you do have there highlighted on the screen before you tonight. So if you were to remove different portions of it, essentially everything west of the front of the garage, you would actually bring the property back under that 30% threshold for impervious. So you would potentially bring it back into compliance. They noted they could then replace that with a pervious surface if needed. So that would be one condition they would propose. The variance criteria are before you tonight in your meeting memo. Initially, during the Planning Commission meeting, staff noted that they found that it was not meeting the findings for variance. So the recommendation was to deny based on those criteria not being met. The commission did review this request. They came up with two recommendations. One was to deny it with those findings for denial. That vote was a 2-2 tie, so that did not obviously pass. The other recommendation was to approve with conditions of approval, including the removal of portions of that patio. That also was a 2-2 split, so that did not pass either. So the commission did not formally make a recommendation to the board tonight. So what you do have before you tonight is two resolutions based on those two different recommendations from the Planning Commission. One is to deny with findings that the criteria are not met. The alternative resolution is recommending approval with those conditions that the commission discussed at their meeting in November.
It?
I would note, if you guys do choose to table this request, you would need to extend the review period an additional 60 days per state statute.
All right, Steve, you were at that?
Yes, we, being it was, originally it was tied, the second motion was made for a different, as Evan pointed out. I personally believe that this thing should go back to the planning commission. I think we should have the extension. I'm not in favor of passing this because I don't think it's had enough of a review. To me, it's after the fact, it's in violation, and I'd like to know how many other variances are around there. How many other properties have the same issue that, we've dealt with,
Well,
so.
especially when you're dealing with zero lot line.
Yes.
I mean, variants are, even if they are granted, they try to improve the situation, not make it worse.
And
but-
I do get, this is unique from the standpoint that the neighbors are the parents. So, I mean, I just think it needs a little more work from the planning commission. It's just
Well, and also there was, only 4 members there?
4 members.
Normally there's 7. I think we have one vacancy, don't we, Patrick?
Yep.
But it would be nice to at least get a full comment or a full board to have this reviewed again. I kind of agree with that. What do you think, Tom?
I'm fine with that. That lets me off the hook voting.
Wow.
But we've got a planning commissioner who's taking over, so she'll be familiar with it. A couple things with this. When I met with the applicant today and looked at it, I think I counted 4 zero lot line setbacks for driveways on Birch Knoll. 3 of those were side-loaded garages, so you understand the turnaround. But this is not a side-loaded. It's pretty common in this neighborhood, not necessarily Birch Knoll, but the Manor Park, Bel Air neighborhoods, 5-foot side yard setbacks. A 10-foot's a requirement, but 5-foot's kind of the norm now because many of those homes were built with single garages. This one's a 2-car. I guess I'd like the planning commission as part of their, if this goes back to them for review, look at a 5-foot side yard setback for garages, maybe some discussion at the planning commission for that option. Doesn't let you off the hook completely. There's probably some trimming, but maybe something we can look at as an option to discuss with the planning commission. And Chad, the other consideration, have we ever done a license agreement for something like this? If a unique situation with a little bridge connection with the folks' house next door. I don't recall any for a variance, but has that ever been
It's
talked
an
about?
interesting point because actually the agreement they have is a license. Because it can be revoked at any time.
Okay,
But keep in mind, that's under the control of the neighboring property.
yeah,
So I've never run across a case like that.
okay.
But it does mean you can't do it.
Well, maybe that's another consideration, that this could be permitted by variance for a period of time until your folks decide to move or somebody moves. Anyway, just another angle to look at for discussion if we're going to turn this back to the planning commission.
Well, plus too, if Evan, if you survey the whole neighborhood there, I'd like to have some findings of fact before we allow a variance this egregious to the property line. But if it looks like that's kind of conforming with what the neighborhood is going to, then it makes it easier for us to make.
Well, you do have 2 resolutions with findings for both options. I would note that.
And even with, I know parents as neighbors, that's great, but people buy, people sell, you never know what happens, and all of a sudden the next person does not like this arrangement, and then we're back in where we are now and trying to, I'd just like to make sure that we're, do our due diligence, so when whatever we decide to do, we have good facts about it, so they can't come back to bite us.
So I'm clear, we don't have to take either resolution. We can just, we can extend the time and push it back to the planning commission. That's what I'd recommend doing.
Like I said, I would feel comfortable with that, giving Evan a chance to scout the whole neighborhood and get a better feel for what's going on over there. If this is common, or if these are all predated, or when was that, Tom, you remember, when was that platted?
It was the 60s, I thought. we
60s?
decided.
So that's before our minimum lot size.
Yeah, the town zoning was not adopted until 72, I believe.
Yeah, somewhere's mid-70s.
Yeah, so it was county zoning at the time.
Well, any other questions of Evan?
No.
All right, hearing none, I need a motion to open up for public comment.
I'll move to open the public comment portion.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? I believe the applicant's here. If you want to come up, just get your name and address for the record and give us your version.
My name is Mike Dunham, 4025 Birch Knoll Drive, and thank you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. So first off, I've lived on Birch Knoll Drive virtually my entire life. My folks bought the property and moved in when I was a week old, lived there all through my childhood, went off, got married, and 5 years into marriage, the house next door came available, and so we bought the house next door to the neighbors. And we're able to raise our family there. We knew it was a great neighborhood. The opportunity to have my children grow up next to their grandparents seemed too good to pass up. And so in 2004, this is salient to the board, is that we hired a contractor and they installed the patio that's on that drawing. Now, what that drawing does not show is that the patio actually extended about a third of the way from the fence to the bridge. And so there already is existing concrete within the setback, quite a bit of it. And there is impervious surface, as Evan noted, above the 30%. So if we were to simply deny this, we're still faced with what was existing, which is both setback and impervious surface. And furthermore, this was simply a repair and replacement of the aging driveway in concrete. And so that was the initial impetus for this. We then decided, because it was 3 paces from the edge of the existing concrete to the bridge, it made sense to extend that so that my parents would not have to trip, because we go back and forth between the homes on a daily basis. My dad has a garden, and my parents have computers, and I'm in the IT business. So there's lots of reasons to go back and forth on a daily basis over that bridge, and I don't want my folks to trip. In addition to that, it's really the access to the backyard. We have a boat, and during the winter, we also have a snowmobile trailer, and so we're regularly backing the car up and directly in there, given that that's less than a 10-foot space. And we've got an 8.5-foot wide trailer. We need to come in fairly straight in order to make that happen. So from an access perspective, certainly I believe this constitutes the reasonable use of the space. And given the layout of the property, Bergen built this back in the 70s. And to be quite honest, if you talk to any of my neighbors, which I've done over the past few days, they'll talk about the fact that the lot lines are uncertain and things like that. So all that being said, what we wanted was, for a myriad of reasons, being the access to the backyard for the storage of the boat, as well as the snowmobile trailer, the regular parking of my children, particularly now that Birch Knoll Drive is 4 feet narrower. Keeping them off the street is a good idea for everybody. Being able to go back and forth on between the two properties on a regular basis. All of those things made it seem like a good idea. So we called up a contractor and asked them, would you please and the other piece is that because the boat had been there in the truck there, that all the grass was dead, and we were watching our yard go down into the street every rainstorm. And so we decided that for all those reasons, to handle the erosion, to handle the foot traffic, to handle all those things, it made sense to extend it. So we called up a contractor, and in good faith, we said, could you please do this? And the contractor said, well, you're going to be within the setback. And I said, as far as I know, we're okay. We're already within the setback, and we have permission from the neighbors. So go ahead, apply for the permits, install the concrete, let it go. And so they did, and unfortunately, the contractor blundered. He didn't have the approval that I thought he had. And so now I'm on the hook for already a couple $1,000s for the survey and the variance fees and everything else that we've put into this, and now the potential to incur additional cost to have to rip that out and replace it either with landscaping or some other type of surface. And the net of it would be that we'd still have several hundred square feet of concrete within the setback, and we would have the permeable surface. So simply returning to previous would not benefit anybody. And so thinking on this, it occurred to me that part of the reason why we did this project as we did was because concrete is pretty expensive right now. I heard the comment earlier tonight that costs are going up and things are expensive. And so we broke our project of wanting to replace our patio and driveway into two pieces. And so this actually would present a potential opportunity if we were to replace our entire back patio, the blue section, with a permeable patio. We would take us from 33% of the used space down to 27% of the used space. So it would be a significant reduction of the permeable space, which obviously, to my mind, is the more important one. It's for the environment, everything else. But in addition to that, it would also be reducing the amount of pavement that is inside the setback. So it'd be a net win for all to allow the driveway to simply exist and to simply look at replacing the back patio. So that was my suggestion, trying to find a solution. Obviously, I would ask for some time to make this happen. My daughter's graduating with her MBA this week, and my son has one more year of college, so if we could spread it out a little bit, I'd appreciate it. But nonetheless, that was my suggestion, is that this might be a net win for the township, that it would decrease the amount of concrete in the setback, that it would decrease the amount of pervious surface on the lot significantly. In fact, take that portion down below the 30%, which would obviate the need for a variance. That this could be the most elegant solution for all involved. Now, I had the opportunity to speak with my neighbors, and they were thrilled with the fact that we had gotten rid of our aging driveway, and that they thought the new patio, or the new driveway, was lovely, and they thought it would help the property values. As was mentioned earlier, there are actually 8 properties on our street of the original 24, which would make it a third by my math, that have their driveway within the setback. So we're certainly not unique. And as was pointed out, there are 3 just on Birch Knoll Drive. There are also others on Portland, and some of which have been poured within the last 12, 13 years. So there are certainly some properties here that would make this in keeping in character with the entire characteristic of the neighborhood. And so I think we have a pretty well thought out solution that could, again, make this better for everybody, and not force us to have to incur the additional cost of removing what we had done in good faith, and would also address the, again, making things better for the neighborhood, for our reasonable use, as well as for the township. So that was our side of the story.
Steve, Tom?
The only thing I'll say is that's a good story that you just told. I'm not arguing that a bit. I think it may be a good approach, but I still think it belongs back to the Planning Commission. And you just keep talking about incurring costs, which are true. You would incur those costs until you go after the builder or the contractor who did this, because you have a cause of action against the person that did not follow the plans. So temporarily, your costs, if it doesn't go forward, temporarily your costs, you may have collectible all those costs against some at-fault party. Just keep that back there. So
That's good to know.
for clear record that if you had a contract that you're supposed to get permits, et cetera, didn't follow those, you have a cause of action, in my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, but I did handle claims. So that's all I'll say.
Tom?
Yeah, I think you made a pretty good case for additional planning commission discussion.
Yeah.
Well, the board appreciates you considering pulling that, getting impervious to try to get this thing back into compliance. We like that you're willing to negotiate this issue now that it's after the fact. One thing about variances, every neighbor could say no. That doesn't mean anything. We can still say yes. Every neighbor can say yes. Doesn't mean anything. We can still say no. But I am curious, when I talked to the building inspector today, I didn't ask him, did he look at a drainage issue because of this concrete right there? Because I understand if you're watching your driveway wash, is it going to back up and now not drain properly because of where the concrete was placed?
No, because we've got a swale on our south line, so everything will drain into a planting area that we have underneath the bridge.
Okay, so I mean, but Mike Johnson was aware of that? Because usually with drainage, the water can't leave your property and your neighbor's water can't leave their property. It's supposed to be a mutual runoff.
Sure.
So I just want to make sure this isn't creating an issue for either one of you.
No, the swale channels the water from both properties, so.
Okay. That was my only other comment. And again, like, I think this is prudent to give our town planner a chance to review that whole neighborhood, just to make sure we're not, we always worry about setting examples and precedents, and then somebody down the road is going to come right back to us and say, you allowed that, we want that. And it's hard for us to say, you can't have it now, but that's why we need to make sure that we're pretty confident in how we deliberate on this.
That makes complete sense to me, and I've put a lot of thought and effort into that exact, how would you say no to the next guy?
Right.
And truly what this boils down to, again, is the character of the neighborhood. The fact that there are properties in this neighborhood that are already within the setback, and the main reason for it being that this place was laid out in the 60s while the township didn't have these statutes in place.
And the board realizes that this is the wrong time of the year anyway to try to do this, to correct it. So it's not going to happen until next year anyway. So we're very comfortable with giving a 60-day extension so we get a chance to go back to the planning commission and then come back to us. If that works for you folks, that'd be a great starting point right now so we can get this resolved.
Yeah, our goal is to resolve this as well. And again, we want to do what's right, but obviously we do love our new driveway.
I know, but I've been a contractor for 40 years. It still makes me very mad when somebody like that when that's what permits are for, to keep this from happening. So.
Sure, understood. At the same time, it may be worth mentioning the property as being owned by my parents. Do you care if I disclose that it's in trust? So ultimately, it'd be going to me anyway.
All right. Any other questions of Mike?
No.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else like to speak with this? Yes, sir. Come on up. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Doug Jones, of 4035 Birchnell Drive on the north side of where Mike lives. And I've talked to our other neighbors across from me, down further, and there's not one person that objects to this driveway. It looks 100 times better than what it did before when there was nothing there. It was just runoff, runoff, runoff. Dirt and mud. Now it's not like that, and it looks a lot better. And I think it improves his property value, which in turn helps you guys out too.
Does it improve your property, Doug?
It doesn't affect my property one way or the other.
Okay.
If it did, I'd be here saying that, but it doesn't. No, I think it's a great driveway, and it serves its purpose, what he's trying to do with getting rid of a few, getting rid of a few things and helping his parents out at the same time. But if you guys want to come around and survey the neighbors, I welcome you.
Well, that's why we have a town planner.
Okay? I'm just here to say support Mike and what he said. I can't argue with any bit of it.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Anyone else? None of the students want to jump in here? Or?
No?
All right. Hearing none, I need a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
I'll move to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Now, if we were to move to send this back to the planning commission, do we have to take an action to waive the 60-day prior to that?
Yes, you do.
So that would be the
So we need the first motion to do that.
Yeah.
Well, you're not actually waiving the 60-day. What you're
just
doing is
extending.
you're
Extend, yeah.
authorizing, you're actually,
Asking the applicant to.
no, you're not asking that either.
Okay.
You're simply, give me a second here. You're exercising your statutory right to extend the period for an additional 60 days.
That's lawyer talk.
That's what my motion would be.
I'll second that.
Maybe lawyer talk, but that's the statute calls for.
All right, motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Now we only be able, a motion to send it back to planning commission?
I can make that motion.
That would be, what's the date on that, Patrick?
Yeah,
It'd be January what?
December.
January 23rd.
Oh,
We're not having one in December?
We do, but the agenda is finalized.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's 23rd of January. As Evan said.
Here you go.
I'll second the motion to move this back to the planning commission and on their agenda for the January 23rd, 2025 schedule.
all right, motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I would hopefully have staff reach out, we try to get a full complement of folks there,
Got it.
so we get a better, some kind of consent on what they're doing there, so. All right, thanks, folks, we appreciate it, especially, trying to work with us, we'll get a result. All right. We're moving on. Item 8, new business. Looks like we're going to go to our Tom Kelly, our Chief Financial Officer. This is the number one is the transfer of certain funds.
Yes, these next few items are required for bookkeeping purposes. The first one, you have Resolution 2457, which is approving transfer of certain funds. Every year in our budget, we have a number of funds that we transfer. The first one being from the EDA to help fund Township Day, so it's a transfer from the EDA into our general fund. Items 2, 3, and 4 are transfers from our water, sewer, stormwater fund, and on item number 3, Polar Lakes Park Improvement Fund, transfers for their portions of the 2019, 2020, and 2021 improvement bonds to make the bond payments. Transfer number 5 is for our seal coating. It's a transfer from the general fund to the improvement fund where we pay for the seal coating. And then item number 6 is based off of our capital improvement plan, the improvements that were needed in the park. So it's a transfer from our general fund park maintenance budget over to our park improvement fund to pay for improvements to the parks. The last two, items 7 and 5, were transfers based off of our 2024 street improvement projects. Again, it's the water, sewer, and stormwater funds share of those project costs. And so in order to make these transfers, we need the town board to approve a resolution adopting these transfers.
All right, Steve, questions, comments?
I have none. Do this every year.
I just got one, Tom, on your spreadsheet here where it says Township Days 15,000, but back where I just saw it, you had 7,500.
It's 15,000. In the past, it used to be broken up 7,500 for Township Day and 7,500 for helping maintain the historic town hall. And so that's what it's actually for.
Oh, so that's lumped into this?
Yeah, that's all. That's what makes up the 15,000.
Okay. All right, I think that's the only discrepancy, or at least question I had. Any other questions of Tom on this?
No.
I have none.
Hearing none, I need a motion
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 24-57, approving the transfer of certain funds for the town of White Bear.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. All right, next one is the fund balance classifications.
Yes, GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standard Board, defines fund balance into different categories. The town board, depending on the classification, does need to approve these. And actually, the 2024 classifications really haven't changed that much from 2023. The first one is a restricted fund balance in the park acquisition of $6,385. A number of years ago, we were given a donation, and the money was to go towards improvements at Rutherford Park. And so to meet that donation requirement, we need to restrict the balance of that. So that's the $6,385. In the EDA fund, we have what is called a non-spendable fund balance because it's not in the form of cash. It's actually land held for resale. The land is currently valued at $1,124,312. And as I said, it's non-spendable because it's in land, the form of land, and it's hard to spend land. The final one is one that we've had for a number of years. It's $250,000 in the stormwater fund. This is one the board has just set aside, so it's classified as an assigned fund balance, and it's $250,000 for the future Stillwater drainage improvements that are needed on that one. And again, these are required by GASB and just takes a board approval. It does not take a resolution to set these funds aside. So with that, I guess I'll take any questions.
No.
Just one. The EDA fund, I imagine at 1.1, most of it is the property this building's sitting on?
Most of it is actually the property out on Portland.
Oh, the stable properties.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all I had.
Did that amount, is that where the land that we recently sold down the road here was in?
Yes.
Okay, so, yeah. Thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, I need a motion on the fund balance.
I'll move to, based on the finance officer's review and recommendation, approve the 2024 fund balance classifications.
Second.
Motion made second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? That motion carries. All right. This exciting money talk. Let's go to HC. Debt reduction.
All right. In your packet is Resolution 24-58. It reduces our debt levy. We have 3 bonds outstanding. All of them are for street improvement projects. Again, it's the 2019, 2020, and 2021 improvement bonds. When we issued those bonds and provided the funding sources between the 3 bonds, the town for 2025 could levy up to just over $560,000 to help pay off that debt. However, if the town has other funds it can use to pay off that the bond payment in 2025, the town board can reduce the debt, and there's certain language that's required, which this resolution has, stating that we have excess funds and that we will use it to pay the principal and interest. So the resolution is actually reducing the debt by $108,609 down to debt levy for 2025 of $451,873.22. And again, this is something that is required by state statute, and the county will needs this resolution in order to reduce the debt levy.
Tom, is this part of the budget?
It is part of the budget and part of the resolution that you will approve as the 2025 property tax levy.
Will this be done in March then?
No, this will be done at the end of this month. We have to certify the levy to Ramsey County for 2025. It'll be payable in 2025 in May and in October.
Okay. Tom, anything?
Nothing.
Steve?
Just a quick clarification in your reference material on reference and background. It says in total, the town would be required to levy $560,482.22 in property taxes in 20245. Is it 2024 or 2025?
2025.
Okay, so let
The
the,
levy year is 2024, but the payable year is 2025.
in property taxes for these debts, this is 2025.
Yes.
So let the record be changed to show that that is really 2025. No question.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, need a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass a resolution for 24-58, reducing the tax levy pursuant to Minnesota statute section 475.61.
Second?
All right, motion made second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on, the property tax levy.
Okay, again, you have resolution 24-59. It is the amount that we are going to certify to Ramsey County for property taxes to be paid in 2025. At the March meeting, annual meeting, residents voted for a tax levy of $6,535,336. We could not exceed that amount going forward. As we went through our budget process, we certified a preliminary levy, which was used in the tax notices that went out in mid-November. That amount was $6,342,394. And then in just a couple weeks ago, when we held our special town budget meeting, residents approved a final tax levy of $6,212,324. Since that meeting, we did get the amount that Northwest Family Services or Northeast Family Services is requesting for 2025, which was $2,000 less than what we had budgeted. So I reduced the levy down to $6,210,324 for 2025. The breakdown of that is for our general operating levy, we've got $5,321,000 even. And then to that, we get to add the fiscal disparities aid of $437,450, and then finally that debt levy that you just approved of $451,874, which gives us a total tax levy of $6,210,324. And the operating portion, the $5,321,000, and the fiscal disparities, that will fund our operations for our 2025 general fund budget.
All right, I know we beat this one to death, but Steve, got anything?
Yep, just the numbers. The resolution has a different number in it, does it not, than that number you're recommending?
It shouldn't.
6210, I see 653 and 632. Which one is it? Oh, not to exceed 65, then not to exceed 634, 394. Okay, it's dropping down.
Yep.
All right, now I'm good. I follow him now. So you're asking us to not to exceed 62112, 324?
I'm asking not to exceed $6,210,324, which would be our final levy.
Just left off a comma here or there. Okay, got it. I'm done.
Does that mean you ready to make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion to, I move to pass Resolution 2459, adopting the amount to be raised by property taxation for the year 2025.
No, second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, moving on. Now we have the operating budget.
Yes, now that we have a property tax levy to fund our operations, the board has gone over the 2025 budget many a times. Again, this was presented just a couple weeks ago at the town budget meeting. Again, what was recommended at that budget meeting was $6,740,979 for a general fund operating budget. Again, because of the Northeast Family Services reduction, we're now recommending the board approve a operating budget for 2025 of $6,738,679. And I did provide a listing of the different revenue classifications and sources, and then also how that money is broken out expenditure-wise between personnel, supplies, charges for services, capital outlay, and then transfers. And again, revenues do equal expenditures, so it's a balanced budget. For 2025, we're not proposing the use of any reserves, and we're asking that you pass the resolution adopting a budget of $6,738,979.
Tom, do we have firm numbers on the police and fire contracts?
Yes,
Okay.
and the fire contract does, or the fire budget does include the amount that is being disputed.
All right, Tom, got anything?
Nope, very thorough.
Steve?
Nope. Ready to make a resolution. I'll move to pass a resolution for 24-60, adopting the operating budget for the year 2025 in the amount of $6,738,979.
And I'll second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to capital improvement plan.
Before you is a summary of the 10-year capital improvement plan. The plan is for 2025 through 2034. The capital items that are listed as 2025 are included in the 2025 budget. And however, as they move forward, they still have to go through the normal requirements for receiving bids or quotes. They have to go through town board approval. So just because they are in the budget and approved in the capital improvement plan, they still need to be approved by the town board when we actually get to the point of either purchasing or completing those capital improvement plans. Items that are listed in 2026 through 2034 are there kind of as placeholders as to what we feel we're going to need or when we're going to need to replace equipment or do improvements, and what we think they will cost. As we're developing future year budgets, they can be adjusted accordingly, moved around, and so forth. For 2025, you can see in the summary plan, we have just over $14,160,000, almost $62,000 in capital improvement projects or equipment purchases, and it gets adjusted each year accordingly. But what we are asking for is the board to adopt our 2025 through 2034 capital improvement plan. And again, the board has seen this plan at previous meetings.
No, because we have seen it numerous times, and yes, we go over everything in detail before we approve the expenses for that calendar year, so.
Exactly.
All right. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion based on the finance officer's review and recommendations, adopt the 2025-2034 capital improvement plan.
Second.
All right, motion made, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's you off the hook, Tom. We're going to move to our town engineer for Portland Woods Street Improvement, 2024-2. You going to take that one there?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I had this up and now it's not working.
Technology is great when it works.
Students sign their stuff. Do the one have the kids get their stuff signed over?
There we go.
No pressure.
We got it. All right. So we have two reports we'd like you to review and accept. The first one is for Portland Woods Street Improvements. I have a short PowerPoint to kind of go over this with you. Oops. Why is it showing?
Don't look at me or Tom. His just went down and I can't figure it out.
My battery died.
Did it?
Yes.
Plug it in once in a while.
I have it plugged in constantly. It's the people in the household that unplug it and don't tell me. And I don't notice it, so it's on me.
These are tough on batteries.
That's pretty low. I take care of the students while we're waiting.
There we go.
Now we got to make them separate.
There we go. I apologize. So Portland Woods, we've completed our feasibility study. It's in your packet. I want to give a few details and our findings for the report and talk about next steps. So Portland Woods, originally constructed in 1988. There were seal coat projects in 2005 and 2011. It's a residential property. It's short, 0.1 miles in length. I'm told that this may have been a private street at one time that the town board took over, which, there's a number of things with this street that don't meet township standards. The pavement rating in 2021, when the area was evaluated, was 1.2. And today it's 0.8. There is concrete curbing on the street. It's called B612, but it's irregular. It seemed like it was hand formed. There's areas that it's up to 8 inches tall, and so it's irregular and makes for difficulty navigating and plowing. The street width is 21 feet in width. The bituminous depth ranges from 5 inches to 6.5 inches. And you can see one of the cores here at the bottom layers are brittle and cracking and falling apart. This picture here kind of shows the curb. There's another photo here that coming up that'll show it as well from a wider lens. So the feasibility study, as you know, we do a lot of research and data collecting as a part of the feasibility report, including soil borings, pavement coring, which you just saw pavement core, wetland delineation, stormwater pond maintenance review, utility evaluation, questionnaires, and property owner feedback, that we collect property owner feedback on issues. And then we use that data kind of to study the improvements and provide our recommendations to you in the form of the report. The report includes cost calculations, funding, assessments, and the schedule for the project. So based on our review of things, we're recommending a reclamation project due to the overall condition of the pavement. It's the deterioration is such that doing a mill and overlay type improvement would not be provide value. We also are recommending replacing the curb and gutter with a surmountable type curb. This street is narrow, and we looked at evaluating widening the street to provide more space. You can see on the photo here that cars do park on that roadway. However, you can see how narrow the corridor is. There's right-of-way constraints. There's trees and utilities that impede the ability to widen to what we'd like to see, normally a 28-foot wide street in this area. So as part of that, we'd like to replace the curb and gutter for because it's awkward looking, it's awkward to navigate, plowing issues, and then also to have more of a surmountable type curb so that people can navigate if they need to along the edges to drive up over the curb to get around somebody that might be parking on the street. And then we have some minor utility improvements as well. As the board knows, curb and gutter, when we're doing improvements, curb and gutter is critical to building a correct street that lasts the test of time, controls that drainage. This is a look of the type of curb that we propose here. It's a surmountable angle type curb that would be available on all the streets. We wouldn't have a barrier type curb in the area. But the curb and gutter also would define the street, reduce that edge failure we're seeing in some other streets that don't have curb and gutter. In this case, would reduce the plow damage and improve the aesthetics of the area. Public comments we've seen on this project. We did have a neighborhood meeting on November 13th. And we had questionnaires, responses. There was not a lot of response on the questionnaires, but this is a short segment of road with only eight homes. No drainage issues were reported. There was suggestions as a part of the comment that was asking for a surmountable curb. And then they had another comment in there about concerns with speeds on nearby Highway 96. I won't run through all these. This PowerPoint is also intended for the upcoming neighborhood meetings and public hearings, but the board is aware of what these projects entail and what residents can expect. But there's a few photos of the activities that would be undertaken. This photo on the left is the reclamation process, where we're grinding the pavement into the aggregate base below to provide a new product that we build upon. And this is some photos of curbing work. And then paving operations at the end. You can see this. This shows what it would look like, that street with the different style curb. So we'll get into costs. We're estimating at this point $464,000 for this project. You can see we do have some contingencies in there. We are kind of planning for the worst, and so hopefully these costs would come down as the process unfolds. Includes project indirect costs of 25% to cover engineering, town administration, financing, and bonding. Assessments are a part of this project, as you know. Assessments are distributed to the property owners, and we are estimating $12,000 per residential home in this project area. And that's based on appraisals that we've completed on other similar projects in recent years. We would perform appraisals on this specific roadway if this project moves forward. Assessments are spread over 10 years for a project like this, and corner lots are assessed at 0.5 units each for each improved side. So this is kind of the distribution of the assessments. So of those overall costs of $664,000, $370,000 is accessible. However, using that $12,000 assessment with 8.5 units, that's $102,000. So under the assessable amount. This is the assessment map showing the different properties on the project and those that would be assessed on the project. Of note, the property at 5272 is subdividable. So we would assess 1 unit plus a half unit for that property. And these are the funding sources. So you can see assessments, $102,000, township funds, $268,000. The water fund would pick up any water main repairs, $65,000. Sanitary fund would pick up any sanitary sewer improvements for the project, $6,630. And storm utility would pick up any stormwater improvements, $21,000. This project would follow our communication program for street improvement projects, with our website being a clearinghouse for a lot of the documents that we prepare for the projects and the PowerPoints we prepare. The feasibility study would also be there if people are interested in that. And then we also have 3 information meetings planned. The questionnaires, as we mentioned. If the project moves forward to construction, we'd have newsletters, mass emails, and updates on the website. And then, of course, we're happy to meet with folks individually if they have individual concerns. So if the town board approves tonight, we would look at holding a neighborhood meeting in mid-January, likely the week before the public hearing, which is preliminarily recommended for January 22nd. And then if the project moves forward after that, we'd have another open house to view plans. And the plans would be, when the plans were complete, they'd come to the board in April, awarding a contract in May, and construction, obviously, this summer. So next steps for the board are simply to accept the report and call for a public hearing on January 22nd. Tonight, the board doesn't need to provide any opinions on the improvements. They just need to simply accept the report, call for the public hearing. You may learn things through the process, through the public hearing, that might sway your opinion. So there's not a need to provide an opinion. And then next steps, if it's approved tonight, is the neighborhood meeting in mid-January and the public hearing on January 22nd. Thank you.
Where would the call for the assessment fit in that timeline if this goes forward? Not the assessment, the appraisal.
We could start it.
Excuse me, Larry, once the feasibility report is accepted, we'll deliver that to the appraiser, who will then conduct the appraisal. We do not order that till you approve or adopt the project and the feasibility report's adopted.
All right.
Sorry, Larry.
That will confirm the assessment amount then, so we're in line with that? Okay. All right, Steve, you got any questions?
No.
Tom?
Nope.
All right, hearing none, I need a motion for the adoption of this resolution.
I'll make the motion based on the town engineer review and recommendation, adopt the resolution, accepting the feasibility report, and call a public improvement hearing for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, beginning at 7 p.m.
No second?
All right, motion made second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, one more, Larry, this is Anderson Lane Street.
Yes. So similarly, Anderson Lane is a a street located off of Centerville Road. It's just another short street. It's about a quarter mile in length. It was originally constructed in 1986. A utility project occurred in 1999 with seal coat improvements in 2005 and 2011. Again, this is a residential property. The pavement rating was 1.1 in 2021, and evaluating today, it's 0.7. Bituminous curbing is failing or is gone or eroded. The street width here is also narrow. It's 22 foot wide, and then we found that the bituminous underneath that street is only 2 inches thick, which is likely contributing to the degradation of this roadway. So you can see the pavement core here. That's a 2-inch mark. This is a look at the street itself. It probably doesn't show up on your screen very well, but it's breaking apart rapidly. Again, I won't go through this again, but the same feasibility process, including all the data gathering and property owner feedback we received to prepare the report that's in your packet. Again, we're recommending a reclamation project for the area due to the minimal pavement depth and overall pavement condition. We're recommending addition of concrete curb and gutter to control that drainage. I'll talk about that in a second. Increase the width from 22 feet to 28 feet. Addition of storm sewer for the area and some minor utility work. This is an example of what a 28-foot roadway looks like in terms of trying to navigate a fire truck while people are parked on the roadway. Again, that concrete curb and gutter, this street really doesn't have curb and gutter. It had bituminous curb in areas, but it's not controlling the drainage, which the drainage is really causes that degradation. It provides for when you're not controlling that drainage, the moisture gets underneath the street and causes things to move and freeze and thaw, exacerbating the degradation. This is a map showing what we're proposing for storm sewer in our report. There's a culvert crossing underneath Anderson Lane, kind of closer to the cul-de-sac. We would replace that, but also add catch basins in the roadway to collect that drainage and get it to the pipe. And then we're also proposing some pipe near Centerville Road to collect that drainage and drain it to the pond. We also held a neighborhood meeting on November 13th, well attended by the Anderson Lane residents. We also received questionnaires, and the questionnaire responses, I listed some of the things they mentioned, some drainage issues. They mentioned construction traffic for nearby development was using Anderson Lane at times. Cul-de-sac not being large enough to navigate. Some question the project need. There's questions about or concerns about Centerville Road, and mainly as you're exiting Anderson Lane, taking a left at certain times of day is difficult. Utility concerns. And then last week we received a petition from a majority of the residents on the project, and there are 2 petitions. The one requested that the assessments be no more than 25%, which we'll talk about in a bit. The other questionnaire requested a mill and overlay, requested that the street not be widened and with no curb and gutter. So some of these requests are contradictory to what I'm recommending, so it's something we'll have to navigate through the public hearing process. These are similar pictures to similar type of project. I won't go through them. So our preliminary cost for this project, $961,000 for the project. Again, includes that those indirect costs and some contingencies. Again, we're recommending, it's the same project, similar project to Portland Woods, recommending that $12,000 for each residential unit, which would be confirmed through that appraisal process. On this project, we have 19.5 units, and so that that assessment amount, 19.5 units times 12,000 is 234,000 of that 961,000 project costs. Of those project costs, the assessable amount is 765,000. This is a map showing the parcels that would be assessed. In one of these units is a township-owned parcel, so the township be on the hook for that 12,000 for that parcel. So this is the funding. So then, of course, 234,000 for assessments. The bulk of the rest of that assessable amount would be paid for by township funds and levy. And again, the water fund would pick up water main improvements, sanitary would pick up sanitary improvements, and the storm fund would pick up storm sewer improvements, including that new pipe we were recommending. Again, we have a website for this project on the township website, and we'd follow our standard communication protocol. And this would follow the same schedule as the Portland Woods. So again, looking for acceptance of the report tonight and calling for a public hearing for January 22nd.
And no need to discuss the petitions at this point, or is this the time to talk about that?
All we're doing is accepting the feasibility report, so.
Okay. I have no questions.
Steve?
I have no questions.
Just one, Larry, you talk about going from 22 to 28 feet wide. Is that road in the center of the right-of-way now?
For the most part, it'd be 3 feet on each side.
Right, so that's not still going to interfere, it'll still stay in the right-of-way?
Yeah, I think I have a photograph on here. This photograph on the upper corner kind of shows it's a lot more open than Portland Woods. There's not the right-of-way issues that we are seeing on Portland Woods.
Well, because I did notice when I drove it a couple days ago, there was a couple of trees that were taken down. Some pretty big stumps, looks like right next to the road. That's what I was asking about, if it's going to shift one way or the other or stay right in the middle.
We'd like to keep it right in the middle and just widen on each side.
All right, that's all I got. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion based on the town engineer review and recommendation. Adopt the resolution accepting the feasibility report and call a public improvement hearing for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, beginning at 7 p.m.
Now, second?
All right, motion made in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, that concludes our regular agenda. We have no more. Item 10 is open time. That's where if anybody would wish to come up, state your name and address and tell us what a great job we just did, or or not.
Questions, what we did? No?
All right, seeing no one approaching. Item 11 is the receipt of general supplements. I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Then I need a motion to adjourn at 8:28.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you, board.